You ever wonder why the harder you try, the more tasks you accomplish, the more exhausted and useless you feel inside? You're doing everything society says you should, checking off tasks, chasing goals, pushing yourself harder. But somehow, instead of fulfillment, you're left drained, empty, and lost. Maybe you've convinced yourself that you're simply tired or temporarily overwhelmed. But what if I told you that this exhaustion is actually a symptom of something deeper? An invisible condition silently eroding your sense of self, one you aren't even aware of. Think carefully about this. If constant effort isn't the answer, then what is the real solution to this relentless feeling of burnout that's consuming you? Carl Jung once spoke of the shadow, referring to those darker parts within us, the fears, insecurities, and vulnerabilities we work so hard to hide away from the world. You spend your days wearing a mask of strength, competence, and positivity, never daring to reveal the truths you hold within. But what if confronting these hidden parts, rather than hiding from them, is the only way you'll ever truly find peace? Could it be that your endless striving isn't strength, but avoidance, an attempt to escape the very things inside you that desperately need your attention? Because here's the truth you might not want to face. Until you bravely acknowledge and accept these shadows, you'll remain trapped in a cycle of exhaustion, chasing after goals that will never truly fulfill you. You might think you're free, but have you noticed how tightly you've bound yourself with expectations of constant productivity? There's no visible prison, no bars, no chains, yet you wake up each morning already imprisoned by your to-do list. Every task is another subtle demand, every notification a tiny electric shock, reminding you that you're still not enough. Have you ever felt your heartbeat quicken each time your phone buzzes, even when you're supposed to be relaxing? It's just a sound, a small vibration, yet it brings anxiety rushing back in, destroying the illusion of rest you've tried so hard to create. The truth is, your exhaustion isn't a sign of weakness. It's a symptom of a world that pressures you to always be strong, always available, always productive. You're not tired because you're failing. You're tired because society's definition of strength has become distorted, and you've unknowingly accepted this definition as your own. Pause and consider this. Have you ever stopped and recognized that perhaps the person placing the greatest pressure on you isn't your boss, your family, or your peers, but yourself? Emma, a young project manager in Chicago, experienced exactly this realization one ordinary afternoon. Sitting in her office, surrounded by accolades and achievements, she stared blankly at her computer screen, feeling inexplicably empty. Her calendar was meticulously organized, her inbox efficiently managed, yet she couldn't remember the last time she felt genuinely at peace. It was in that fleeting, quiet moment she saw clearly. She had been living according to a script someone else had written for her. Success had become a performance, each day a carefully rehearsed act, leaving her disconnected from her true self. Maybe you, like Emma, have found yourself in those quiet moments, questioning your relentless pursuit of positivity. Society urges you to be optimistic, enthusiastic, constantly improving yourself, but have you noticed that this forced positivity rarely heals? It often wounds. It's like running on a treadmill without a stop button. The faster you run, the more exhausted you become, yet you fear stepping off because you've convinced yourself that rest means failure. Have you ever found yourself faking enthusiasm, smiling when inside you're completely drained? You push yourself to appear strong, happy, and productive, afraid of letting others see your fatigue or frustration. But here's the harsh yet liberating truth. You're not weak for feeling exhausted. Perhaps you're simply tired of pretending you're stronger than you actually feel. There's a powerful paradox in the idea of relentless positivity. The harder you try to be happy, the less authentic happiness you experience. Your attempts to constantly appear productive and upbeat might be silently breaking your spirit bit by bit. You were never meant to function like a perfectly tuned machine, continuously running at maximum efficiency. You're a human being meant to experience quiet moments, uncertainties, and even sadness. These aren't flaws to correct, They're essential parts of your humanity. What if true freedom lies not in endlessly chasing perfection or constant productivity, but in your willingness to refuse these impossible expectations? Consider this. If you've never truly allowed yourself a genuine pause, how can you know what your soul truly needs? Maybe the answer isn't another meticulously planned strategy or another self-help tactic. Maybe what you really need is not more doing, but simply being. Giving yourself permission to slow down, rest, and listen closely to what your heart has been quietly trying to tell you. Could it be that your struggle isn't due to a lack of effort, but rather too much effort directed at the wrong goals? Perhaps the real solution to your exhaustion is hidden in your willingness to reject society's relentless pressures and expectations. Imagine stepping off the treadmill for just a moment, letting go of the need to always perform, always achieve, always improve. Imagine allowing yourself the freedom to simply exist without justification, without guilt. Your life doesn't need constant validation through measurable outcomes and relentless positivity. Your value isn't diminished when you rest or slow down. On the contrary, it becomes clearer, deeper, and more genuine. Because true meaning and fulfillment aren't found at the frantic finish line of endless productivity. They're discovered in the quiet pauses, in the moments of stillness when you finally dare to stop and reconnect with yourself. So ask yourself now, gently but honestly, what if your exhaustion is a sign not of weakness, but of wisdom? What if your heart is quietly guiding you toward a deeper understanding that true strength is not found in pushing relentlessly forward, but in courageously stepping back, slowing down, and finally allowing yourself to breathe? You have spent your life believing that your value depends solely on how much you accomplish, how productive you can appear, how consistently you can meet external expectations. But what if the greatest deception you've accepted is precisely that belief? Imagine, even for a moment, the profound liberation in realizing this truth. You don't need to constantly prove your worth through endless productivity. Your inherent worth exists even when you're doing absolutely nothing. Consider carefully the weight you've carried. The weight of always needing to justify your existence through action and achievement. Like the myth of Sisyphus, each morning you wake up pushing a heavy stone up a mountain, knowing well that it will inevitably roll back down. Each day you push harder, believing this endless struggle defines your strength, resilience, and value. But have you ever asked yourself what this struggle actually achieves? Or even more crucially, who you are without it? The symbolism of Sisyphus isn't merely about futility or eternal struggle. It's profoundly about choice. You can't stop the stone from rolling down. That's life's unavoidable reality. But you can always choose how you respond. Perhaps the greatest strength isn't in tirelessly pushing upward, but in the wisdom to pause, acknowledge the weight, and consciously choose what meaning you'll give to your journey. It's not the stone or the mountain that defines you, but the spirit and clarity with which you approach each push, each step, each breath. Deep down, you might sense something isn't quite right. Perhaps in quiet moments you felt a growing emptiness, a subtle whisper from within, gently urging you to reconsider what you're chasing so relentlessly. And yet, the louder voice of society drowns out your inner truth, commanding you to keep going, keep pushing, never slow down, never rest. How long can you ignore the quiet wisdom within before exhaustion overtakes your spirit completely? Pause here and imagine this vividly. You stop running. You step off this endless treadmill and finally grant yourself permission to simply exist. For a moment, everything becomes clear. You realize your exhaustion wasn't weakness, but rather your soul's desperate attempt to get your attention. You recognize, perhaps for the first time, that the goals you've chased so passionately, status, productivity, continuous positivity, were never yours to begin with. They were given to you, forced upon you subtly yet powerfully. by a society that values doing over being. This is your awakening. You don't lose yourself when you stop pushing. Rather, you finally find yourself when you pause and listen. Your value doesn't vanish when the tasks are left incomplete, nor does it diminish when you take the rest your soul has been begging for. The truth is that your worth, your profound, undeniable, inherent worth, has always existed independently from what you produce or achieve. Imagine clearly the freedom in accepting this truth fully. You no longer need to chase meaningless validation from others or endlessly accumulate accomplishments to justify your existence. You can simply be. This doesn't mean you'll never strive again. It means you'll now strive from a place of genuine alignment, clarity, and authenticity. Not because you must, but because it resonates deeply with who you truly are. Ask yourself now with brutal honesty, are you willing to continue this endless pursuit of external validation, chasing an illusion of meaning that never fulfills you? Or will you stop right here, right now, and finally listen carefully to what your heart truly desires? It's frightening, isn't it? The thought of stepping away from what you've always known, the idea of allowing yourself to rest, of doing nothing, of simply existing without justification. But isn't the alternative even more frightening? The thought of living a life that's not truly yours, chasing goals you never chose, losing your identity in pursuit of an imaginary finish line. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a quiet lake. For once, there's no one around to judge or praise your achievements. You toss a small stone into the still water and watch the ripples form, spreading gently outward. You notice something profound. The lake doesn't change its nature whether you toss the stone or not. Your worth is the same, calm, clear, unchanging. Regardless of how many stones you throw or how many tasks you complete, this gentle realization holds powerful wisdom. You don't need endless activity to confirm your significance. You are inherently valuable, worthy, and whole, precisely as you are, in stillness as much as in action. Your life isn't validated by constant motion, but by genuine connection with yourself, your emotions, your truths, and the silent moments in between. So I ask you again, clearly, directly, without hesitation, do you truly want to continue chasing a meaning that doesn't exist? Or will you stop today and finally listen to what your soul genuinely needs? Maybe you're scared. Maybe you've forgotten what it even feels like to live without pressure, expectation, or self-imposed judgment. But consider carefully what awaits you if you dare step away from these exhausting expectations, peace, clarity, and a life genuinely aligned with who you really are. You've carried your stone up that mountain countless times already. Today, you have a choice, a powerful choice. You can't control whether the stone falls, but you can control how you respond when it does. You can respond with resentment, forcing yourself into another exhausting climb. Or you can respond with wisdom, stepping back to ask whether climbing this mountain is even yours to begin with. Right now, you're standing at the intersection of your past and your potential future. Your awakening is here, waiting quietly. All you have to do is listen. Are you brave enough to stop running and finally hear the quiet truth your heart has always known? The answer won't be found in doing more, but in the courage to stop, breathe, and simply be, recognizing fully, maybe for the first time, that your worth has never depended on how much you accomplish. It's always existed quietly and unconditionally within you. You have every right to continue running after external expectations, to keep pushing forward and striving relentlessly to prove your worth. No one can stop you from carrying that heavy stone up the mountain again and again. But pause here for just a moment and consider this carefully. What would happen if today, just today, you decided to stop? If instead of chasing yet another external validation, you allowed yourself to rest, to breathe, and simply be, what would change in your life? Imagine it vividly. Imagine waking up tomorrow without the familiar anxiety, without the crushing expectation of constant productivity weighing down your chest. Imagine looking at your reflection in the mirror and finally recognizing the person staring back, not as someone who must perform, achieve, and justify every moment, but simply as you, inherently valuable, whole, and enough exactly as you are. If you stopped chasing external approval, what parts of yourself might finally have the space to emerge from hiding? Perhaps you would rediscover passions you once abandoned, dreams you deemed unrealistic, or a sense of peace you had forgotten existed. Maybe for the first time, you'd hear clearly the quiet voice within, gently whispering truths you've long ignored. You don't need permission from the world to slow down, rest, or reclaim yourself. Consider deeply what your life would feel like if you no longer viewed rest as failure, but as wisdom. No longer saw stillness as wasted time, but as essential nourishment for your soul. Think of the freedom you might experience if you finally believed, truly and deeply, that your worth has never depended on your productivity or achievements. Your value is unconditional, existing powerfully even in your quietest, most restful moments. So, I ask you directly, gently but clearly, what will you choose today? Will you continue the endless chase, or will you finally allow yourself the courage to pause and reconnect with your authentic self? If anything in this message resonated deeply with you, take a moment right now, yes, right now, to gently write down how you're feeling. Sometimes, writing down even a single sentence can illuminate parts of yourself you've overlooked or forgotten. There's incredible power in simply acknowledging your own truth. And if you feel ready, if you'd like someone to journey alongside you as you explore deeper layers of your own being, consider subscribing. Together, we'll continue this path of honest self-discovery, gently uncovering who you truly are beneath the weight of external expectations. Because your true self, calm, clear, unconditionally valuable, is quietly waiting. And perhaps today, right now, you're finally ready to listen.